So I guess what we'll do is we'll start with item 5, which is open time for public expression. Bill, thank you for sending along some comments here. Do you want to make those in person or would you like me to read them?
You can read them. Well, I was just going to make them again. If you want to, why don't you read them?
Why don't I read them? Okay, so Bill forwarded some comments onto us, so I'll just go ahead and do that. It says here, public comment, MCFL committee meeting 12/12/2022, chair and members. Item number 1, flag early meetings November. Please, some early warning that the bus is going to leave early. As it is now, the agenda packets arrive via email with exclamation all time. Perhaps if used less than all time, it might come in handy with a real exclamation. Item 2, change agenda packet identification with IDs as well as MCFL and date. Presently, there are almost 60 commissions, boards listed with the county. Each has its own agenda packet, and to identify itself, using binder needs to be upgraded to something more compatible yet distinguishable from the others. Item 3, the wave of summary condensed version publications. They need to be recognized and represented in some token fashion until a greater demand presents, i.e. Dr. Dean Ornish's Undo It has been around 11 summaries, out now, Amazon, not VIP. And item 4, reference copies of museum type event catalogs, non-circulating copies, as it is now too many wanting in relationship to those having a copy for actually usually not out short outs. Thank you, Bill. Anything to add to that, Bill? Okay.
Anything unclear that I wrote there?
All right. All right. My president's report for this evening. I'm pleased to announce that we have a new commissioner who will be joining us in January.
Wow.
Linda Christian in Novato, representing District 5.
Great.
And she's got a background in some library work and done some ESL. I had a chance to have coffee with her, and I think she will be a great addition. So she will join us in January.
What's her background?
She's library
She did a lot of library work on East Coast and in North Carolina.
Fabulous.
in schools, yeah. In schools, yeah. And
She's fairly new to Marin, but she jumped right in and wanted to be part of our library commission and loves libraries. So
That's great. Yeah, we need somebody in Nevada too.
Yeah. So we now have we all have 2 seats open in District 3, which is the Sausalito, Southern Marin, Mill Valley. So we're going to start thinking about how we can reach out into that community and try to bring some folks on board so we can get all of our seats filled again.
Well,
So-
I mentioned last week, do you mind me mentioning this again?
Please do.
That we should really work through the Marin City Library because, I mean, that's where we want to get, that's where we're going to get people.
Absolutely.
And so I mentioned that last time, but I guess we haven't done anything yet.
We haven't had a chance to, yeah,
Okay.
but we will do that. And I think we're going to talk to the friends down there and everything too. So see who we can find and maybe identify some folks we actually want to reach out to also.
Yeah.
So we'll start working on that in January. We'll put that at the top of our agenda.
Thank you.
and the vacancy was also listed for the Board of Supervisors. So it's been noticed if people are watching for the vacancies in the documents, it has been noticed.
Thank you.
With regards to officers for the board here, Ali has decided he wants to step back from the vice president's position. He will stay on the commission, but he wants to step back from being VP. Just feels it doesn't, fit with his bandwidth right now. So we will talk in January about elections for a VP, probably someone for that January to July or through June period of time. And then we'll have our total round of elections as we normally do in July. So we'll have to talk a little bit further about that so we can get that taken care of. So we have somebody to stand in case I'm not planning on going anywhere, but you never know. All right, and then the other item we had talked about was some way to recognize some of our retiring and departing employees who've done a stellar job. And in the past, we had, read pieces about them and all that. Lana had been talking about ways to do that. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in January also, so we can recognize some of the folks that have left, because we've lost some incredible talent who've gone on to great other things. But we want to make sure that we recognize their contributions. So we will be talking about That's all I have for old business tonight. So with that, I think we'll move on to new business and have our report from our folks here from in the camp room. So take it away.
Thank you. Can everyone see that virtually as well? Yeah, okay. So thank you so much for having me and Jennifer here today. I'm Carol Aquaviva, and I'm librarian in charge of the California Room, which is our local history archive. Some of you might have visited us or been familiar with us. We have two locations. The primary location is over at the Civic Center within the Civic Center branch. And the other one is here at what we call our Special Collections Annex. And if anyone would like a tour afterwards, after the meeting or pause during the meeting, be glad to offer a tour. Or if you'd like to schedule one at another time in the future, let us know. What I'm going to do today is kind of introduce what we do here in the California Room, for those of you who might not be as familiar, very briefly. And then I'm going to kind of give a state of the California Room report. So kind of a retrospective of what we've accomplished this year. And then finally, some highlights of things we plan on for the coming year.
Carol, sorry to interrupt. Can we have your presentation?
Yeah.
On the USB.
Yeah. Just CRM. Should I wait?
We need to share with the chair. Oh, technology. Really?
I love all the ready notes.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
That makes sense.
Looks like my house with a refrigerator. I should have put one up. Don't forget your book. I have children's books to bring because my wife worked at the laundromat
Oh.
before it shut down. And so she got all these books from the library,
Oh, yeah.
children's books.
Yeah.
When I was in a rush.
Oh, well.
This time of year, I think we're all,
Yeah.
our brains are
I forgot it.
5 different places at once.
I think I followed you in from the park.
Yes, we did.
But I had to
Where are
make
you
a
from?
pit stop.
You're visiting from somewhere you said?
I live in Lucas Valley,
Oh, Lucas Valley.
but I was over in East Bay with a friend.
Oh, okay.
And so as I was driving home, I looked at the clock and said, oh,
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
swing by
Close, yeah. Well, good.
to the library commission. Because I mean, it's
Well,
so
welcome.
important to
Uh-huh.
keep the library.
Oh, like I was.
I mean, everything's changed so much and
Oh,
keeps changing. It's wonderful.
Well, libraries for.
My only complaint is I tried to break the door down at 182 because that was what was
Oh.
listed as where it was.
Oh,
And then a gentleman came out of the bathroom and told me there's a boardroom around the corner and it's
Oh,
there.
okay.
Oh, thank you. Otherwise I'd be wandering around.
No,
you
it's
know.
not easy, is it? It's not easy.
that's really.
There's no sign on the door.
Yeah.
Put one on.
So Susan, I'm out there charging.
Oh, are you? Okay.
Charge
I
point.
charged up last night and forgot to close the garage door, so the garage door was open all night as it
Oh,
was
no.
charging.
Well, if it blows up, that's better.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, I got the new battery now. I'm
Yeah,
good.
me too.
I'm all up to, and a lot more range too.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Not now, not when it's wet, cold.
No, not when it's cold. No, I noticed that.
Yeah,
We both
the
have Chevy
electric charging
Bolts, so
cars,
we always-
they don't.
Oh.
They don't do a
If
good charge when
you-
it's cold.
Wet weather?
Yeah, you notice
No,
the
there's
cold
about a
weather because
30
like
30
before
mile
the new battery, it
difference.
said it was almost getting like,
From
you know,
290 to
299 or something.
330.
Uh-huh.
And now I notice.
330 when it's warm.
269 was. the
290 when
max.
it's cold.
Yeah,
Oh,
so,
interesting.
Battery is.
Yeah,
more.
it's
Just what it is, it's what it
Gotta
is.
stay warm, I
I don't
guess.
have a
yeah.
rational-
Generator.
well, also
It's
you
a
notice like
Tesla.
when you run the AC, you don't have as much range, so like,
Oh,
and in the cold weathers and turning the heat all, I use the seat warmer. and
Right,
that doesn't
seat warmer.
shut very much either.
Yeah.
These little tricks you learn with your EV.
There's seat
I'm not
warmer.
really
Such a
keeping
great
track
invention.
anyway.
Yeah. So, and that's really
Do you get
important.
frost where you live?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
On the deck, no kidding. I'm not even covering my
Yeah, you gotta get used to
lemons,
that, right?
because we don't get that
Yeah.
many lemons.
But it's survived.
But I have no.
Well, we're working on the technology
Yeah,
here.
because
I
otherwise I'd be
understand we do
covering
have a
them all.
quorum now, so while we're finalizing the technology, If we can go back to item number 3, which is approval of the agenda.
Okay.
If I can, any additions or corrections, and if not, have a motion.
I move that we approve the agenda for this
Second,
meeting.
And I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, and did everybody have a chance to look at the minutes from our November meeting?
Yes.
Any
Yeah.
corrections or revisions? Okay, we can have a motion on approval of the minutes.
So moved.
And a second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I'm just not here when you don't.
That's right.
Okay, so that's it. Okay.
You don't have to
Thank you, everybody.
click on the flag. And then you can stop sharing that.
So who are those military women?
I had been wandering lost.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. It's not easy.
So those were, I'll just say real quick, those, he's asking about the photo, Nick. Nick, the photo in the middle.
Yeah.
So that was at Hamilton Field during World War II.
World War II.
And they were Japanese American women who were being sent to Japan with General MacArthur to serve as translators.
Wow.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
yeah. So that photo.
So they all were in Marin, they lived here?
No, they were from all over.
All over the place, yeah.
Yeah, and they were, they were working for the army and, yeah, and served as translators and went over with MacArthur.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I just got back with my friend at the East Bay. We went to Rosie the Riveter,
Oh, yeah.
and that was fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating.
That's a great museum.
It is.
display.
Yes, yes. I
Yeah.
hadn't
Especially
been
when
there
Betty
before.
was there.
Right. Anyway.
There.
We okay with technology or we still?
Well, it's showing, this one shows fine, but this is the recording, and the recording is the one that's gonna be showing.
You're gonna have to. You're gonna have to.
But then I can't get rid of this, right? Okay, so then it's gonna show. Recording. Oh, there. you go.
Julie Magus is, it's kind of oversees
So then I'll just do that.
the technical support.
Yeah, technical for the
Technical.
library. Okay. Eastern. Okay.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, she
He's
is
a-
great.
She's terrific.
Okay, I think we're back on track.
Okay.
Take it away.
All right. Resume. So what I'm going to start with, okay, I'll go to the next slide. Again, I'm Carol. This is my wonderful colleague Jennifer, and our other paid staff is Dewey Livingston. Dewey's wife Carrie is a librarian at the Stinson Beach Library, but Dewey is a Marin County historian and cartographer and preeminent Marin historian, and we are lucky enough to have him as part-time map archivist for our collections here. Anne Kent, I just want to really quickly say, she was a librarian. Anne Kent, for whom our room is named, and she married into the Kent family, for whom Kentfield is named.
Big time.
And Congressman William Kent owned the land that is today Muir Woods. He donated that land for the park, and his wife Elizabeth was a suffragist as well. So I just wanted to
Wow.
make sure that was on the record.
Notable.
Anne was a proponent of libraries, and she was instrumental in getting the county library system established in 1927. And she has library card number 1. I put our mission statement here, which really drives everything we do, and we've updated it within the last few years to reflect our commitment to documenting the history of all voices and cultures in our communities. Okay, so our what we call our patron profile and materials access. Many of our patrons are researchers, and some of them travel from other countries even to come to visit us and see our materials. But our collections are used by a huge variety of people, school children, teachers, other county employees, journalists, academics, property owners and surveyors, genealogy researchers, authors, community members who are interested in all aspects of local history, and people who are just, nostalgic, honestly. Usually our visitors will wind up spending hours at a time, sometimes days at a time, in our collection and with our materials. So a visit to the California Room is different than a visit to one of our branches. Our materials don't circulate. They have to stay in the location, and they often require some special handling because a lot of times they're fragile materials or they're one of a kind. So we have to make sure we keep them safe for the next person who wants to use them. Jennifer and I and Julie are what we call subject specialists. So I've been with the library in the California Room since 2002. And it really does take a little while to understand the collection. It's a very specialized Marin County history collection. For younger patrons, we often are not only providing the information, but also kind of showing them how to use materials and how to do research. So it's kind of a teachable moment when younger folks come in. Our materials include primary and secondary sources. I've listed some examples there, books and yearbooks, oral history interviews, which I'll talk about a little bit, newspaper clippings and pamphlet files, all arranged by subject, original documents, things like letters and diaries and business ledgers, county records. We have a wonderful collection of photographs and scrapbooks. Our map collection, especially here at our unrecorded survey map collection at Los Gamos, is amazing. Posters and oversized things like that. And then we have individual special collections on things like the history of San Quentin Prison or the Stinson family, information about the water district, the history of the water district land, and Frank Lloyd Wright, because he was the architect who designed the Civic Center.
What would come into the category of ephemera? I'm just curious.
Ephemera, so it's a fancy word for saying, I don't want to say stuff, things that normally people wouldn't hold on to, like a brochure from a play or a note that someone writes to someone that you might include in our collection because it highlights some aspect of our.
So how do you
history.
decide if it's worthy?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we go back to our mission, and we also have collection development guidelines. So one thing is we are finite in space. So we, like all archives, all libraries, we have to make decisions based on how much room we have for things. So in some cases, if we're not able to accept something as a donation, we will try to find another home for it, or figure out a way, maybe we can digitize some material and the person can then take the material back, but we can use it as reference material. Even though we're called the California Room, we focus just on Marin County. And there's actually California rooms all over the state that deal with the history of their local community. However, we have at least one book about the history of every county in California, because it's all important in the big scheme of things. We want to make sure that we represent history of Gold Rush and Western expansion. And people who lived in Marin over time, they also might have lived in East Bay or in San Francisco. So it tells the bigger story to have things. But on the other hand, we need to focus really primarily on Marin County history. So things like that guide what we decide to keep. Yeah.
There are interesting articles on the IJ now.
Yeah.
On the history of Marin.
Mhm.
Are these people coming here getting that
A
information?
lot of times they do. Yeah, people writing books on local history. We are a premier stop for them.
I would imagine.
Among other places. A lot of times researchers will have to go to various locations, but we've kind of established ourselves as a reputable, comprehensive place for people to get materials with knowledgeable staff.
I found the interesting one was, and I don't know if it came from here, Richardson Bay, the guy the gentleman by the name of Richardson?
Yeah.
Did you read that?
William Richardson.
That
Yeah.
was fascinating.
Yeah, there is so much interesting history about Marin County.
There is.
Yeah, there really is, and there's always more to uncover.
So there was somebody named Stinson.
Yes,
I'll be
yeah,
darned.
the Stinson family, and so Stinson Beach used to be called Willow Camp.
Oh.
But Stinson, he owned a lot of that land, and so they renamed it.
Fascinating.
Yeah, yeah. So online digital collections. We, on the left here of the slide, I have a screenshot of our California Room website page, which is part of the library's website. It's kind of a portal to the California Room. We have, the first thing on there is our recent newsletter articles. We have featured collections. We have book lists and digital collections kind of arranged in a way that people can access them in a very friendly and easy way. What that takes them to then is our digital archive. And our digital archive we established in 2004. And we've grown and grown and grown. And now we have, as it says there, 8,700 individual photographs, postcards, pamphlets, maps. We have 3,700 high resolution maps of Marin County online and searchable that you can access from anywhere for free without having to log in. And that totals about 16,700 scanned items and always growing. Below that, you'll see our collection, these are institutions that have mirrored our collections, or we've put parts of our collections into other repositories. So these are other ways that people can find our digital items, whether they search Google or they go to the Online Archive of California or the Digital Public Library of America. Our images will show up. Okay. Next, I want to give you a little bit of a recap of 2022. Some of you might remember my colleague Lori Thompson, and she retired in March of 2021. And we worked together she started at the end of 2001 and I started in the beginning of 2002. So we really worked together for about 20 years until she retired. I want to give special thanks to Dewey Livingston again for helping me when I was kind of going it alone during that interim time before we were able to hire someone. Dewey has come to my rescue many, many times with his expertise and his willingness to help people. He is a go-to historian, and I really don't know what we'd do without him. Jen came on board in March of this year, and I could not be happier. We are so lucky to have Jennifer here. She came from Los Angeles Public Library, where she was there for 17 years.
Cool.
And she's
Must have started very young.
child prodigy. But Jennifer has family roots in Marin County, so she's coming home now. And yeah, family goes back several generations to Bolinas, and a real passion for local history, and a wonderful colleague and a real asset to the library. So thank you, Jennifer. I'm so thrilled that you're my colleague. Yeah,
Just as thrilled.
So we resumed our open hours up until mid-October. We had been by appointment only, which had been working very well for people who wanted to set up a time to come in and do research. Now we are open from 9 to 12 weekdays. So if somebody just happens to be in the neighborhood and they want to stop in, or they're browsing through the library and they find their way to the California Room, we are there to help them. People still continue to call ahead and set up appointments. This works very well for us, especially if it's an in-depth kind of research question or something that they're going to be there for a long time, so we can do some reconnaissance and try to find information and pull materials for them ahead of time and save them a lot of time, which works for everyone. by the numbers. There's an NPR show, and I can't think of what it's called, but I listen to it on my way home sometimes, and the guy says, "Okay, let's do the numbers."
Oh, yeah.
And you know what I'm talking about? So I thought of that, and here's the the nitty gritty, some data. During the pandemic, nothing slowed down for the California room. I know that was true in a lot of our branches. In fact, our services, which were already very, very popular before lockdown, became even more popular. And folks had time at home to work on projects, or they had questions, or they were working on a book. And we were able to fulfill requests for a lot of information. Email and phone reference was really essential to us during COVID, and it's even this year. And now, especially, the price of gas, and people are becoming more accustomed to being able to do things remotely. We're still able to fulfill requests for information by scanning things or looking things up and sending information to people over email. So yeah, really, it was interesting as I was doing this. I was even surprised. I mean, I know we do a lot of work, but this really drives it home. Over 10,000 items used, and that's just in the libraries, in the California room alone.
In 1 year.
In the past year, yeah. And it really shows that people come in and they might be looking for a photograph of their house from 1960 something. And in looking for it, they might find other things. Or in looking for it, we might have to go through several different avenues to try to find the information. So it's a process of discovery for people and for us. Some outreach activities that we did this year, despite still kind of being restricted, we really had fun doing stuff in person. One was Kentfield Greenbrae Community History Day at the Bon Air Center, which is an annual event, and we have material out for people to look at and ask us questions, and a real chance to interact with the community. A lot of times we'll get reference questions at these kinds of events, and then we'll follow up the next time we're in the office, and it's a very interesting way to get questions, and then things occur to people as they're looking at an enlargement or a flyer, or something like that. The other activity I have here for outreach was a Finding History Day, and we were, even though it was in Sonoma, we were invited to participate because, again, things are fluid. People don't just stop at the county line, and history doesn't just stop there. And it was a wonderful day, and in both cases, I would say we talked to hundreds of people at each event, interacted with them, and had a chance to talk local history.
Is that a picture of the Golden Gate Bridge being built?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, the floor of the Golden
Yeah.
Gate Bridge is actually one of our most requested
I bet.
reproductions, which we get a lot of requests for that too. People want either to frame something and put it up on their wall, or they're using it for a book, and that is the #1 most requested reproduction. Yeah.
Interesting.
Some other things that we participated in, we regularly worked to highlight themes that the other library branches would also be highlighting. For instance, Banned Books Week, the county's project, you might have heard of this, the Restrictive Covenant Project, which aims to collect and then correct discriminatory, restrictive, exclusionary language that extant in deeds, and revise and reissue those. So that would be things saying certain people were not allowed to live in this neighborhood. So we've been working with the county. We've provided hundreds of historic news articles that you can get on our website and the county's website. History of the Marin County Fair. Every year we participate in some way for the county fair, and this year we put together a digital collection retrospective of the county fair. I wrote a series of articles on the history of Marin City housing, especially right after World War II. Like I said, this all goes back to our mission of trying to be inclusive and collect the stories of all members of our community. So in the upper left there, the Marin City exhibit, it's called Marin City 80, and it was something that we participated in by providing a lot of research assistance and visual material, which they blew up and put on the as part of the exhibit. Some of our writing, and it was a wonderful opportunity to connect with people in a different way. That was at the Bartolini Gallery at the Marin Center, if you might have had a chance to see it. Another big event we had was the 60th anniversary of the Marin County Civic Center. So in 1962, October 13th was the dedication of the administration building. So we had a day-long event, and this was a partnership. Jen and I worked with Libby Garrison of the Department of Cultural Services, and it was quite an extravaganza and an enormous success. And we had classic cars, and we had our county band do music from the early 1960s. I moderated a panel discussion that had county employees talking about what it's like to work in a Frank Lloyd Wright design building, all the challenges and all the
What it's like trying to find a place.
yeah,
Good luck.
Yeah. That, you know what, that was something that we actually talked about, was how do we provide good customer service in a building that's working against us sometimes. but also the really wonderful things about working in such an important building that has really significant architectural value. So that was a lot of fun. Docent-led tours. Jen put together an amazing 4-hour playlist of music from 1962. We had displays in the library, books, bestsellers, and movies from 1962. We had a takeaway craft activity for the kids that day, and a photo scavenger hunt, which I have here, and I'd be glad to share that with you if you want to take a look at that at the end. And then in the afternoon, we showed the movie Gattaca, which was filmed at the Civic Center. Some of you remember that. It was with Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman and Jude Law, and a sci-fi thriller, but a really fun event. We really enjoyed having everybody kind of watch it together under the dome in the building where it was filmed. And the branch looked fantastic, and we had balloons, and it really made a
There was
fun
the
day.
cake.
And then there was the cake.
Yeah.
I didn't put a picture of the cake, but there was a woman in Terra Linda who makes specialty cakes, and she designed a cake in the shape of the Civic Center. And I thought it was,
Oh, my God.
it must have been about 5 feet long. I mean, it was.
I have a picture of it.
Yeah.
Oh.
Some of us tried to get a piece of that cake, but the line was too
Oh,
long.
yeah.
We ran out of plates, and people were eating it out of the cups. But yeah, there was a huge draw. So lesson learned: have cake. But there was really something for everyone, and some souvenir giveaways. And if you were born, if your birthday was October 13th, 1962, you got a special gift bag, and I think they gave away 3 of those. So that had lots of fun souvenirs in it. Local history programs. So we're still doing most of our programs virtually, and it's also been a huge success. 3 programs that we have that I've highlighted here. One, Dewey presented in partnership with the Fairfax Library about Fairfax history, patterns on the land. So looking at Fairfax through a lens of geography and how the geography of Fairfax has led to how Fairfax has been subdivided and how people get from place A to place B. We had an author who used the California room to write a book about capital punishment and San Quentin, specifically the hangman at San Quentin. Kind of a grim topic, but one that great interest. True crime is really a popular subject now, and we enjoyed that book presentation.
The fine art.
Yeah, fine art.
Yeah.
Really, like I said, kind of grim, but also interesting.
Seem like it.
And then another
I don't either.
another program we had was a documentary film premiere of a person who is in his 70s now, but he's just started becoming an endurance athlete, which means he's climbing mountains and in unspeakable conditions and pushing himself. And so it's a documentary about what that's like. But he also happened to be the former owner of Bradley Video, which that might sound familiar to some people. That was a long-running family business that rented VHS tapes and then DVDs in the area. So those were really 3 fun programs. We also presented local history to outside organizations. Dewey presented to the San Rafael Heritage Organization, specifically about San Rafael using our map collection, historic map collection. I presented at China Camp to the Friends of China Camp alongside Jared Huffman and the Director of State Parks about China Camp's history. And then I gave a workshop to the Society of California Archivists at their annual conference, specifically about how to archive oral histories.
Are those dots on that San Rafael map? Are those dots? Are those homes?
That's the orchard.
Orchard.
Would you believe it? And that
In San Rafael?
that's what was called Petaluma Avenue. Now it's 101 Lincoln.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So the good news is, if you want to see that presentation or any of the previous ones here, these are all available on our website. So they've all been recorded. That's the great thing about doing a virtual presentation, is that you can go back and watch it at your leisure. Here are some displays we did. Put together one called Sign Here, Handwriting and Autographs. About interesting things from our collection and thinking about what it means to autograph something and what your handwriting might say about you. Of course, the display that Jen helped me with on the 60th anniversary of the Civic Center Library branch and building. History of the Fairfax Library branch that was at Fairfax, but worked with Margaret Miles, who's the branch manager there. Put up that exhibit. And then
Is that library on the site where the library is now? That building?
no, so that's downtown.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, that's right on the corner of
Or the
Bolinas.
coffee shop.
Okay.
Yeah, the coffee shop. Yeah.
I'll be
Yeah,
darned.
yeah. So that exhibit was really great because it chronicled all the different locations, and those photos are also on our digital archive. So again, even though the exhibit's taken down, you can still see the images with all the information. On our digital archive. And then another display we did, which was an enormous success. And next time you're in the Civic Center, if you go to the second floor cafeteria, you'll see the Frank Lloyd Wright designed doghouse. So this is a reproduction of a doghouse that Frank Lloyd Wright literally designed for a 12-year-old boy who lived in San Anselmo. The boy wrote to Frank Lloyd Wright and said, "You designed the house for my parents. Will you also draw up plans for a doghouse for my dog, Eddie?" So Frank Lloyd Wright eventually wrote back and said, "Here's the plans." The boy built the doghouse. We have a picture of it here as well, reproduction there. However, the dog refused to sleep in it. So, and the roof leaked. So eventually it got taken to the dump.
Yeah.
But the plans were resurrected and the doghouse was rebuilt a couple of years ago. And for a while it was on display in the Civic Center Library. Thankfully now we have a permanent display in the second floor cafeteria and some interpretive material along with it. The picture underneath, I had to take that picture. It was one of the guide dogs for the blind dogs, but it was a black lab, and that was what Eddie was.
Oh, perfect.
So, yeah. So that, when we put that up, again, that was in coordination with the Department of Cultural Services and the Frank Lloyd Wright Conservancy and Building Conservancy and the county. We got incredible media coverage from that. CNN, New York Times, New York Post, Architectural Digest, etc. That was really a coup this year. We couldn't do all this without help from volunteers and our wonderful intern. California Room has always depended on the expert knowledge and help of volunteers. I calculated they did over 1,200 service hours, 9 volunteers. They returned in February after a pause during the pandemic. And they worked on projects including cataloging maps, genealogy research, surveyor assistance, indexing all kinds of material. And these volunteers are not only amazing in that they choose to spend their time with us, but also they often come with a base knowledge that is unparalleled. So whether they used to be a surveyor or an architect or a professional genealogist, they come to us and then their knowledge is shared, and it's amazing. Our teen interns, we had several, including a student who's going to library school and several local schools, Sinaloa North Day School and Redwood High School. Very thankful for them. Just a quick review of things we added to our digital archive this year. 55 fragile surveyor field books. By digitizing these, then we don't have to handle them and people can access them on our digital archive. We're always adding oral history interviews and adding additional material as we get it on things like Marin Ship and Marin City. This is a collection of mug shots that we got about Bill Clinton. Like I mentioned before, the county fair history. Our oral history program. So our oral historian, Marilyn Geary, is wonderful. She went away for about 7 months on a trip. So we had an abbreviated oral history program this year, but we were still able to get in a couple. And again, choosing people to interview, we have a long list. And we are, once again, we go back to our mission of trying to collect information and stories from a wide, diverse group from the community. Donations increased during COVID. People started cleaning out their garages and their attics. And so we had a backlog of processing of materials. And we'll list some of the specifics of how many things we got. Get donations at least 3 times a week. Sometimes it's every day, whether it's one book or cartfuls of material. And that's when we have to make the hard decisions about what to accept and what to not accept. Some additional organizations that we paired with for outreach and partnership. We regularly work with other local history groups and work in conjunction with county departments, public works, assessor recorder, cultural services, etc. And so on the horizon for 2023, we'd like to establish the Friends of the California Room in the same way that our branches have friends groups. This is something that I think would be a wonderful way to promote the California Room and get even more support for what we do. And more diverse oral histories, more inclusive programming. Wondering if perhaps, you know, we'll see how things go in the first couple of months, if we'll be able to return to in-person programming. We would like to do that. And then some partnerships we have on the horizon as well.
What are you? It's an intriguing idea, the innovative, creative, inclusive program.
Yeah.
Are there any things on the burner?
Yeah, you know, I love coming up with new ways.
Yeah.
You know, we do author talks, and I think those are important, but I'd like to expand and maybe do a book club. Something where people can participate rather than just a person standing up and lecturing. And Jen and I, you know, I think we're really good at coming up with creative new ideas. Sometimes we see what other people are doing and see what works. But I would like to make sure that our programming is accessible to everyone. So if you can't come to an evening program, you know, what's another way to include people, you know, whether it's also having a recording or doing a lunchtime, you know, book talk or something like that. Yeah,
Thank you.
We also have, and this is for everyone here, and we'll make sure that the folks who are virtual get a copy, but we've made you each a calendar. So if you'd like to pass them to.
Well, look at that old
Thank you.
book.
You got one.
I first got really interested in Marin County history as a senior in high school at Drake, which is now Archie Williams. In my senior year, you could take electives, and there was a history teacher there who loved Marin County history, and he created a whole semester class on it.
Oh, my
And it was
gosh.
fascinating, and we learned about all the land grants and everything. It was just a great class, and it, you know, growing up in Marin, I didn't know that much about it, but that was my first introduction to Marin County. In high school, yeah, he just loved it. It was a great class. He also liked Teddy Roosevelt, and I never could quite figure out what the connection was, but I just remember his class. It was terrific. That was great. Great. Well, thank you. That was very informative.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
So we can come in here then, like in the mornings, you said. And just
Yeah,
browse
9 to
the
12
collections you
it's
want.
drop in over at the Civic Center, and then if you'd like to come in at any other time, just give us a call ahead of time and make sure, you know, we'll be there, since with all the outreach and meetings and things, sometimes you know, we're not there in the afternoon, but we haven't had any problem accommodating somebody who wants to come in.
Great. A lot of great stuff up there. Oh, thank you very much.
And if anyone would like a tour at another date of either our map collection here or the Civic Center, please feel free to reach out.
They're
Thank
great
you.
pictures.
They're great photos, yeah.
Great photos.
Thank you, Carol.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we will now turn it over to Lana for the director's report.
Good evening, Lana Lowen, County Library Director. Just wanted to say, this is our holiday sort of celebration gathering, and so I just wanted to take a moment. Can everyone hear me online? Two thumbs up if you hear me okay. Yes, I see Claudia, thank you. I want to take a moment to thank the Library Commission. I've been with the library now almost a year and a half, and this commission is fantastic. I've never met a more unique and caring,
Not sure what that
unique
means.
in a very good way, unique, caring, and dedicated group of people who are such a good team with one another. And it really is a cause for celebration and appreciation and gratitude. And I just want to thank you as your director for all that you bring to the county, for all that you bring to one another, for all that you bring and support our staff. So just, you know, a note of gratitude in this time of holiday celebration. So thank you.
Thank you.
How many people did you have on your commission in Sonoma County?
oh, probably 15 plus.
15, and is there districts?
They are their own JPA, the Joint Powers, so they represented different parts of the county.
Oh.
Yeah, so similar structure, but in terms of coverage of the county.
Yeah.
Other things I want to report on, Anne has a great article from the Marin IJ, or from Monday,
Yeah.
or earlier this week, that we'll pass around so you can read it. There was also in today's IJ in the opinion section, I don't know if you,
Oh, yeah.
you saw it.
Virginia,
So it's
Jennifer.
a letter from
Yeah,
Ginny
that's
Schultz,
interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
our
Yeah.
president, library president, just
Very
a,
well written.
just an acknowledgement of our passage of Measure B for the libraries, and
Yes.
another message of gratitude and for everyone who worked on the campaign.
And then
So,
clarification of the
Yes,
other
that was really
measure
good.
B.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was with the College of Marin. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
very good.
So, the Marin IJ had a big headline that said Measure B for College of Marin. The Friends had heard from a few members that there was some confusion about our Measure B that had just passed, and their Measure B, which was in 2016. So they wanted to clarify that. So we can make a copy and send it out for anyone who hasn't seen it. And then a note of change for our library system. I wrote it in my written report, but our assistant director, Chantel Walker, will be, changing position. She's the new position outside of the county that she will start in January.
No, say that again?
She's Chantel.
Chantel Walker will be leaving.
Leaving.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was good. I saw that. And I thought, oh my
Where's she going?
I don't know. I know it's outside the county. And she's happy to share that information with you, but it'll be in January.
That's a
So
shame.
if she wants to do a celebration, and we'll of course let the commissioners know about that.
Really miss her.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's been with the county for almost 10 years, and she did a lot of great work with the library in terms of our racial equity work and with California Libraries. So she brought a lot. And lastly, just appreciation for Carol and Jen for doing the presentation.
Oh, yes.
And welcome, Ali. Just in time. Jen, we are so happy that you've come home. I can't speak to that enough, and just welcome, what the two of you will bring to Marin history and our collections going forward. So thank you very much. And one last announcement. So we've gotten some clarification about in-person meetings. We've been talking about this the last few months. So probably in March, we're going to have to be in person. So the governor will no longer have the state of emergency order in place. So that changes Brown Act rules. So everyone who's on the commission will have to be in person, and any staff joining. What's still left to be decided by the Board of Supervisors is whether we'll allow public participation remotely. So I'll have more information for you on that going forward. But if we stay as we are now in this environment, anything can change in the COVID environment. In March, expect to be in person. Okay. And that's it for me.
All right, so announcements, we're gonna adjourn here in a few moments and have some little holiday cheer here with some goodies that people brought. We get to do a tour. Our next meeting will be January 11th, Corte Madera, for those of us who are attending in person. And I would just like to express my appreciation for being on this commission and working with a great group of people and the library staff. I have learned so much just being part of this and how wonderful our libraries are. I was so proud to work on Measure B. That was such a great opportunity to work on a political campaign. I'd never done that before, and one that was successful besides.
What time will the Corte Madera meeting be?
It'll be 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Yeah, and that won't be too far for you to come.
Right,
better be on time.
Presumably at the library, right?
At the
It will be
library,
at the
yes,
library.
at the bridge, yes. So I want to personally wish everybody happy holidays and hopefully a happy, healthy 2023. We need to move on. I really
No
do.
kidding.
Yeah.
So anything else before we adjourn? Any comments or? All right, well, with that, knock on the table here. We are adjourned. We need a motion. I always forget that. We need a motion to adjourn.
For adjournment.